The forensic psychiatrist hired by Jeremy Skibicki's defense team and flown in from England told the court that in his opinion, the accused suffers from schizophrenia and has been since 2019. Dr. Sahom Daz came to this conclusion after interviewing Skibicki twice, once in the fall of 2022 and again in late April this year, just before this trial started. Daz said Skibicki discussed in detail killing Rebecca Contois, Morgan Harris, Mercedes Myron, and Buffalo Woman. Daz told court that Skibicki's recollection was often theatrical and that he was, quote, very specific, but not overly to try to convince me, unquote. Daz testified that Skibicki said he often heard voices for long periods of time. Daz told court more details about Skibicki's first murder. Skibicki told him she was wearing all red and he heard the voice of God. Daz's opinion is that these are all psychiatric signs of distress. In previous weeks, court heard Buffalo Woman was his first victim, and at the time of her death, Skibicki was coming down from a magic mushroom high. Defense questioned Daz about Skibicki's drug use. Daz said this is where the case gets complicated because he felt that Skibicki often minimized his drug intake, so it's been, quote, hard to indicate what is drug psychosis versus mental illness, unquote. Defense also brought up Skibicki's online searches that court heard about weeks ago, where Skibicki was checking for city garbage day pickups and looked up the definition of serial killer and asked Daz if Skibicki knew what he was doing was legally wrong. Daz said that Skibicki knew that it was legally wrong. However, he had a lack of criminal responsibility because he believed he killed the women to get them to heaven. Daz quoted Skibicki as saying, "I was absolutely doing the right thing. It was a mission of God." Necrophilia also came up in Daz's testimony. Daz told the court Skibicki felt compelled to have sex with the women after he killed them. Daz told court he also reviewed Skibicki's health records provided by defense that date back to 2000 when he was 13 years old. There were notes about different illnesses that Skibicki may have had, including depression, borderline personality disorder, paranoia, bipolar, and PTSD. However, the majority of Skibicki's visits to the hospital emergency rooms happened in 2014 and 2015. Daz said many of the visits had to do with self-harm and suicide attempts, including one time where Skibicki stabbed himself. That same time period is when symptoms of schizophrenia began to show up. Then in February 2015, court heard an emergency doctor diagnosed Skibicki as a paranoid schizophrenic. The Crown asked Daz if Skibicki was ever formally diagnosed by a psychiatrist, to which Daz replied, "I don't know." The Crown also raised concern that what Daz was going off of was a summary of information the defense gathered on their own, including self-reporting rather than actual diagnosis. The Crown is arguing that Skibicki was intentional and racially motivated when he killed all 4 women. The trial continues tomorrow with another psychiatrist, the one that was ordered to do an assessment by the court after the Crown asked the judge for it. T.R. Wheatley, APTN National News, Winnipeg.